So how did was it difficult for you to get private access to the pyramid to do this work?
No. Well, yes and no. Um, there was a man. His name was Mahmoud Mubarak, and he had been keeper of the keys of the Great Pyramid for about 35 years, and he had like a huge family that he took care of. And I had had an experience with him back in '81 where he experienced something with me that made him realize that something was connected to me that he was to pay attention to. And what happened was we were down at outside the Mina house at a little cafe, and I turned to him and I said, when was the last time it rained here in Cairo? He said, oh, it's been many, many months. And I said, well, it's going to rain today. He said, how could it? There's not a cloud in the sky. No, it will not rain. No, it doesn't rain in March. This was in March. And so all of a sudden, within about 5 minutes, it started raining, and there wasn't not one cloud in the sky. And it rained over about a 4 to 5 block area. And the man that I was with at that time walked up to me with water all over his glasses and said, oh, what have you done? And I said, I haven't done anything. And all of a sudden, Mahmoud just fell to the ground, and he said, oh, you've returned as you've promised. He said, you must come back here in November when the Venus star arrives. That's what he called the Pleiadians, the Venus star. And I didn't know what he was talking about. Then the next thought he had was, he said, you've got to come with me right away. And he just jerked me up and literally dragged me up to the pyramid and grabbed a candle, not a flashlight, a candle, and we went straight down into the subterranean chamber. And that's where I had 2 hours of missing time. And then when I came out of there, I was very angry. I was very upset. And when I looked at the Egyptian men, I didn't like the way they were looking at me, and I didn't like what they were thinking, and I just had to hurry and get to my hotel room. And then I had a very strong feeling that I could not leave the pyramid. And yet all of us were supposed to get on a train and go to Luxor, and I didn't want to go. And in fact, I threw such a fit that they bodily had to put me on the train to go. Well, in a couple of days, President Reagan was shot, and I went back to Cairo, and I asked Mahmoud if we could go inside the pyramid, and he said yes. And so a great deal of work happened from the pyramids through the act of Bardo, because we were told that Brady had died. In actuality, he was on the operating table, and there was a miracle that happened to Brady at that time, which was the press secretary. And of course, Reagan, he got a walk-in at that time, and I didn't really know too much about walk-ins then, but later I became to know that a walk-in came to spend the rest of his stay as President of the United States. And that's how I came to know Mahmoud, who got us inside the pyramid in '83, because in '81 I had been there, and he had experienced this raining episode, which I had nothing to do with. I didn't even know it was going to happen. But that's the way ET experiments are put in motion. They do things, and then you're standing there with egg on your face wondering, well, why did that happen? I was just as surprised as anyone else.
So the crystals show up 2 hours before you were due to take your group inside of the pyramid.
Right.
And tell us a little bit about the reason, the process, and the people's transformations.
Well, the people that had decided to show up for it, and if some of them, people that had raised their hand to come, at some level had really inside their souls, they were ready to have this happen, or they wouldn't have been there. In other words, there were two people that came out of curiosity, but once you walk through the veil of walking in there, curiosity can no longer play. You are going to get a crystalline implant, and they are going to monitor you for the rest to stay on your planet. And although you're told this, and you may, have this blank look on your face like, well, what does that mean? Well, you shouldn't have walked through the veil. And curiosity, gets a lot of people into some of these ET experiments when they don't have a clue of what they're doing.
And was there Pleiadean souls, energies that came and traded places with these people?
Yes, I got to see there was a gentleman from Dallas. I won't mention anyone's name about this trip because I don't have their permission to do so, but there was a gentleman from Dallas, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and one of the ladies that came with us to be on the trip, the time had been changed to go inside the pyramid, and therefore she was locked out. So she got to witness it on the outside. She was camped outside the pyramid with some Egyptian women. And they said at 4 o'clock in the morning, when this particular person was laying in the sarcophagus, that they saw these thousands of tiny little white starlights that came from the top of the pyramid and went up into the ship that was above the pyramid. They got to witness the ship. They got to witness the transfer of this soul. And then they said once the silver lights went up into the ship, then the next thing that happened, the gold lights came down from the ship, and I guess that's when they brought in a new walk-in. And what happened at 4 a.m. that time in Dallas, Texas, his ex-wife died at that very moment. And so two of them left at the same time. A walk-in came, though, to take care of their children and to, and put the experiment further into alignment with what was taking place that night. That was a very, very strong demonstration of a walk-in. Another walk-in that happened just prior to that by about an hour was there was this guy from Las Vegas who had at the last minute shown up, and he had a girlfriend with him, and before that time he had been kind of Bill and cooing with one of the other girls, a Jewish girl on the trip, and they had just fallen madly in love for about 2 hours before we went inside the pyramid. Well, when he laid down in the sarcophagus, he actually died. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh my God, we signed a piece of paper promising that no one would die, and look, someone's died. What am I going to do? Then all of a sudden, this went on for about 6 minutes, he was dead. Someone jumped in and said he's not breathing, and we had, rescue remedy, we had crystals, we had magnets, we were doing everything. Then all of a sudden, he took this big, deep breath, and his voice was kind of garbled, but he said, how come they gave me a body without any arms? And I was just stunned. I was just stunned, and so I turned to my friend and I said, rub his arms, rub his arms. So, then we rubbed his arms. He gets up, steps out of the sarcophagus, and here's the little Jewish girl, Bill and Cooan just couldn't wait for him to acknowledge her. He walked straight past her, didn't even know her, and walked out of the pyramid. And I am just, a part of me is going, oh my God, and another part is saying, keep it steady, just get ready for the very next initiation. I said, okay. And those